Congresswoman Maxine Waters ramping up her rhetoric against President Trump. The California Democrats started calling for the president's impeachment shortly after the January inauguration. Watch.
Republicans should step up to the plate and confront the fact that this president appears to be unstable. When is the black community going to say, yeah, impeach him? It's time to go after him. I don't hear you.
I've said over and over again, I think he's the most deplorable person I've ever met in my life.
But this time, some say that Waters may have taken it too far. Listen to what she said at a recent New York gala.
I am sitting here listening, watching, absorbing, thinking about Ali, even though I never met him. And with this kind of inspiration, I will go and take Trump out tonight.
So there's that. Ben Shapiro, editor-in-chief at DailyWire.com, and Richard Fowler, nationally syndicated radio talk show host and a Fox News contributor. Richard, you know, I'm just watching this, and it isn't really that surprising. I mean, you know, when you look at all of the things that Maxine Waters has said since the inauguration. But I can't help but wonder if, you know, a previous president, President Obama or, you know, President Clinton, if someone had stood up and said that about them, don't you think the outrage on the other side would have been uncontainable?
And I think the outrage was uncontainable. When Ted Nugent threatened to shoot the president, there was outrage on the left, and it was uncontainable. So, and here's the thing.
He's not a congresswoman, though.
No, I mean, I get that, and I don't think that she was threatening to kill the president in this particular soundbite. I think that some from the right have sort of made this ideal that she's trying to threaten to kill him, and I don't think that's what she's saying here. I think she's saying, I'll go take him out, just like somebody like the president would say, I'm going to go take out Hillary Clinton and beat her in the next election, right? It's a very tongue-in-cheek saying. I mean, she's been in Congress since 1991. Nobody believes that she's going to go to the White House and try to physically harm the president in any way.
All right, I got you. So you're saying that the rhetoric has devolved so dramatically on all sides that this is just sort of the way we talk now. Ben, what do you think?
I think there's some truth to that. I think this is a pretty outstanding example of just how far the rhetoric has devolved. I mean, Maxine Waters has been saying pretty inflammatory things her entire career. There's a woman who once said that the LA riots were really an LA uprising. She's used charged language for 20-odd years. She's one of the most corrupt members of Congress. I don't think anyone's particularly surprised by this, but the shouting and cheering for the idea that I'm going to take him out tonight, it's the word tonight that really adds that extra flavor there. It's not just I'm going to take him out in 2018 or 2020. It's we're going to take him out tonight that I think everyone's upset about, and sort of rightfully so.
All right, let me ask you. Go ahead, real quick, Richard.
Just one thing I want to say. I mean, is the president's rhetoric is almost just as bad. He said he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and still be elected president of the United States, right? So his rhetoric is just as bad. So I mean, I think to sit here and to criticize Congresswoman Waters, we should also be criticizing the president for using the same type of rhetoric.
Well, we said, you know, is that where we are, and has the conversation devolved to such an extent that we just sort of take this as no big deal? Speaking of rhetoric, let's take a look at this cartoon that was put out in the Daily Californian, which sounds like a Sunday newspaper, but that's what they published. It's Alan Dershowitz with his head sort of pushed through, you know, some sort of wall, and the images that are back there depict stomping on the Palestinian flag and an Israeli soldier shooting an unarmed person. And let's also put up what Alan Dershowitz showed us in terms of what was put up at the university on the bulletin board, where there was a swastika drawn over his face. Ben?
I mean, it's pretty shockingly anti-Semitic stuff. This particular cartoon is straight from the pages of Der Stürmer, appearing in the Berkeley newspaper. The suggestion that Alan Dershowitz is a tool of the Israelis, and not only a tool of the Israelis are engaged in Nazi-esque occupation in which they're killing innocent children for no reason at all. And it's pretty obvious, you know, anti-Zionism equaling anti-Semitism in this particular case.
Let's put up a quote from an interview that you guys did at the DailyWire.com with Alan Dershowitz, and you know, he points out, he says, you know, irony is too kind of word. It's hypocrisy. And remember, this is a reaction to a speech in which I said that I support a Palestinian state. And he goes on to say, I support the end of the occupation. I'm against Israeli policies on settlements. You know, and Richard, it just raises the question of whether or not there's some similarities between, you know, sort of the hard progressive left and this neo-Nazi hard right.
Listen, I've said all along, I think that there's racism on both sides of the aisle. I don't care how you split the cookie. I think there's racism in the Democratic Party. I think there's racism in the Republican Party. I think there's homophobia in the Democratic Party. I think there's homophobia in the Republican Party. I don't think homophobia, racism, xenophobia, sexism, I don't think they know party affiliation. I think there's hate in people's hearts, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I don't think it hides under one particular political cloak or another, period.
Ben?
I mean, I think that there's some truth to that. The question is, how close is that hate to the heart of a particular movement? And when you're talking about the anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism of some parts of the left, that seems a lot closer to the heart of the Democratic Party than to the heart of the Republican Party.
I'm sorry.
We gotta go. I'm getting counted down, you guys. But that was a really cheery segment, so thanks a lot. Both sides are horrible.
Trying to drag up any kind of, especially these gun nuts, trying to drag any, take any comedy bit I did out of context and use it as some kind of proof. They're saying that I'm calling myself the moral conscience of America, which I most certainly never did.
So are Kimmel and late night comics trying to have it both ways and getting too political? Well, here now to debate is professor and political commentator Wendy Osefo and host for The Blaze, Lawrence Jones. Good morning to both of you. Thank you for being with us so early this morning.
Good morning, Abby.
All right, Lawrence, let's start with you. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel, late night hosts have every right to talk about whatever they want to. It's their show, right? They have that right. But when he says he's not the moral conscience of America, and you hear him speak out about issues that he is passionate about, health care, gun control, you name it, what does that say about him not speaking out about Harvey Weinstein? He knows a lot of these actresses. They've all been on his show before. This is something that you would think he would want to speak out about.
Look, Harvey was a part of the bubble, and we've seen Jimmy Kimmel as well as these other comedians talk about political issues, cry about issues, and now they were silent on this issue when many of these people, the comedians, these politicians, were used in Harvey's political arsenal to attack these women, to show his power over these women. So if anybody should be speaking out, are these powerful people right now to show the world that this is not okay.
But does it lessen their credibility, Lawrence, when they choose not to speak out on something like this, and they are so willing to be sort of that voice of reason for so many other issues that are more in line maybe with them politically?
It seems like they're hypocrites because they can speak out on this, and they were so quick to speak out against Donald Trump when there were Access Hollywood tapes. Meanwhile, we have a serial rapist out there, and they have nothing to say.
Yeah. Wendy, why are we seeing the hypocrisy here? Because take the politics out of it. The hypocrisy is so obvious, right? When you see that the way it's being played, the way that Hollywood was so slow to respond on many fronts, many liberals were slow to respond about Harvey Weinstein. Why do you think the hypocrisy here?
Well, I don't think that there's hypocrisy, and I actually think that that's a false narrative, because we did see Jimmy Kimmel come out and speak against this. Like he said, when they taped on Thursday, the story had just broken, so they could not change the script for the story on Thursday. Friday, there was no show, and then on Monday, he did speak out about it. And then other people in liberal Hollywood have also spoken out against Harvey. So we cannot have a false narrative here and say liberal Hollywood has not done that. Actually, what liberal Hollywood has done is they have expelled Harvey Weinstein from the Academy. That sends a clear message that they will not tolerate the sexually predatory behavior. However,
he's been doing it for years.
He has been doing it for years, and to be quite honest with you, let us be clear. Let us be clear. No, let us be clear here. We need to do this across the board, whether in entertainment or in Hollywood. We have a president in the Access Hollywood tapes who said explicitly, when you are in a position of power, you can do whatever you want to women. We did not have the GOP expel him, but we do have here in liberal Hollywood, they expel Harvey Weinstein as soon as it comes out. But we voted him as president. So there is not about condemnation. When you give somebody the power of the highest office in the world, there is not condemnation.
When these were alleged events, we know that Harvey has been doing this for years.
And so has the president.
In Hollywood, and people, there's no evidence of assault.
He said with his own words, he has with his own words has said, when you are in a position of power, you can do whatever they want. I will grab women by their genitalia. That is what he said. He did not say that, Lawrence.
Lawrence, but you think about, we're talking about Hollywood and the hypocrisy here, and SNL, for example, this broke, over a week ago? 2 Wednesdays ago. They didn't touch it at all last Saturday night. They did last night, but they said it was a New York reason or something for why they didn't touch it the first time. Also, you've got Roman Polanski. You've got Bill Cosby still in the Academy Awards. So we're talking about this bigger picture of hypocrisy. I hate the politics of all this. Let's take that out. Let's just focus on the hypocrisy and call it for what it is, Lawrence.
It's not.
It's not just hypocrisy, but Abby, they knew this for years and said nothing. There were numerous amount of accounts. They even had bits in the awards shows where they cracked jokes about this. And so the hypocrisy is that Hollywood continues to talk about women's rights, talking about shielding our women from this type of violence, which I support. But you got to call people in your own movement. And Harvey was a part of that movement, and they cracked jokes about it. They knew about it and said nothing.
Yes.
Well, let me say this. I think this is really important because we said when we have an agenda, we don't speak against the agenda. I think it's really important for us to talk a little bit about how the president, it took him 48 hours to denounce Charlottesville. There are 4 soldiers in Niger who were killed. He hadn't spoken about that.
Wendy, what
it's
does
not
seem...
a spin. It's not a spin. It's talking about what's on your
Wendy,
agenda and not speaking of it.
Wendy, as women, though, what I will say is it is so sad that it has taken women in Hollywood so long to feel like they're able to speak out about what's been going on. So as women, we can agree about that.
Absolutely.
Wendy, Lawrence,
Absolutely,
great
Abby.
to have you with us.